Always wonderful to talk with the creative mind, Jesse Lonergan. We've met in person at Heroes Con. This is the third time to chat on the podcast. So thank you for returning and glad I'm doing something that gets you to come back.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much. It's good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. We're talking about a project that from the moment I saw it, I was like, I need to talk with him about this. I need to find out more about this. The book Drome from First Second. Am I saying that right? Drome?
Drome, yeah.
Yeah.
We had
Uh,
discussions about the name because it's a little bit of a challenge as a name. But yeah, Drome with an N, with an M.
well, yeah, I always appreciate your work. The stuff you do in fantasy and science fiction is so cool and visual storytelling. So please tell us about kind of the pathway to this book. What was the inspiration for Drome?
Yeah, Drome's sort of this massive tome of it's like, this epic about war and love and death in a primordial world and sort of like conflict between chaos and order. And like there's inspiration sort of came a lot from like mythology, the stories from sort of Greek mythology and even Arthurian legend and like Gilgamesh. Sort of there's this quality to those stories where they're at once very simple, but like sort of like I think because time has sort of worn off any like unnecessary bits, it's like these sort of core ideas. And so I was interested in doing a story sort of in that realm where everything's sort of big and grand. And
Mhm.
also I felt like with Hydra, I had sort of established some sort of visual ideas and sort of ways in which a narrative can work, but I sort of wanted to push those ideas further with sort of this like kind of epic indulgent length of like things you can only do so much in like 20 pages, 40 pages, 50 pages, but when you get to like 300 pages, all of a sudden it's like, oh, things are the way actions move and things is very different. And so you can establish things very early on and they can lay sort of dormant and then sort of explode in the end where you maybe didn't like it became part of the backdrop sort of. So I wanted that sort of scope, that type of story, that type of sort of magnitude with this story. And yeah, that was sort of the inspiration going into it.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask how it challenged you creatively. So it sounds like the sheer volume itself, the amount of
Yeah.
work and the length of storytelling was part of that.
Yeah, definitely it's far and away the longest, biggest thing I've done. I think I started on it. I was looking back. I posted like the whole thing, as I went on Patreon. And the first post is like June of 2020. Um, and I think I sort of wrapped up like the rough thing maybe like 2024 some point. And so,
Mm,
it's like 4 years of work. 4 years of sort of discipline because like I have to take like I do other jobs as well like like they're all comics but like with Drome it was sort of like 2 pages a week was sort of my target to be able to do
yeah.
2 pages a week which like to get to 300 pages that's 150 weeks of like working a full-time job. I had a kid in that time as well and being like that sort of discipline was definitely one of the challenges. Um, and then there was sort of like with the the creative process, sort of like wanting to sort of up the ante as I went along. So like I
Mhm.
had ideas for things that would occur like in the final chapter where when I started I was like I don't really know how to do that right now, but I think by the time I get there I will have thought of some way of sort of showing like these different planes of existence and things like that, and sort of like leaving these sort of things where it's like I don't know if I know I can't do it right now, but because this is so big, I think by the time I get there, I will know how to do it. And sort of like, it kind of felt like the entire time, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of functioning at the limit of my comic booking ability,
Hmm. Hmm.
sort of throughout. So it's kind of like always a challenge. But also, I think because of that, never really dull as well. Like I feel. I, I feel sometimes within even like reading graphic novels, there's like a certain point where like it feels like the art's done all of that it's gonna do, and you're just gonna sort of be seeing, like you appreciate it at the beginning, but then by like page 150, you're not really appreciating the way the book looks or the way the book's drawn because you've seen so much of it. And so I was trying to sort of avoid that and have it
Hmm. Hmm.
always be like, okay, there's a new element's been introduced and then another element and all these things. So yeah, sort of constantly challenging myself and then also trying to get it done. Um, was yeah, a big part of it. Um,
Yeah, you have it broken down into these sort of chapters.
yeah,
I think it starts blue and then goes red, and so it's
yeah,
kind of cool that way. And I recognized as I was reading through that there's kind of a new era happening in each one of those chapters,
yeah,
and
like
as you said, something new that gets introduced.
yeah. I wanted it to sort of to to build on it on itself as it went along to get more complex as it
Yeah.
goes. And yeah, and in producing it, I didn't have a contract when I started it, so it was unclear how I would get this published, whether it be something that was too weird and I would just have to self-publish it on my own, or whether I'd go through a more sort of mainstream publisher with issues. And I'm happy the way it came out, that it came out as one volume with 23rd Street, which is an imprint of First Second. So yeah, but yeah, part of the chapters was also thinking about like issues of like, oh, this could be 5 issues approximately, really big, long issues, but 5 issues.
Yeah.
Um,
Now you're
yeah,
also a master of the silent page, silent panel. I love the work that you do
yeah,
that way. So, how do you make sure that you get the information across silently?
yeah. I think part of that comes probably just my interest. Like I'm not a big word person. Like I don't really enjoy writing. Um, and in working on it, like literally, I don't write much. Like I think I probably wrote maybe like a 3 page outline back in
Mm.
2020 sometime, which I don't even know where that is. It's in some sketchbook somewhere, and I didn't really go back to it. Like it's like writing it down once was enough. But after that, I sort of work in comic book form, and
Mhm. Mhm.
so I feel sort of like the storytelling and the imagery is sort of baked together. So they're kind of like inseparable, um, which I think because like I feel like the drawing is part of also the creation of the story. It sort of also guides the ideas a lot. Like the ideas become more visual and more structured in that sense. I feel like you have different ideas when you come about it from a drawing perspective first. And
Yeah.
like I feel oftentimes I might like have an idea for something visual, and then as soon as I sit down to draw it, I'm like, oh yeah, that doesn't work because as soon as I start moving, I can't organize a page in my head. I need to do it on paper. And so I think working in that manner for me is just sort of like creates that guidance and that structure that sort of makes it have to be visual. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
and I think that's part of it. And then also like I think there's with like layouts and page designs, I feel like that's getting into my weird sort of obsession. I was actually on a panel at HeroesCon talking about layout, um, and Trad Moore was there, and Michelle Foupe, and Kayla E. And Trad Moore and Michelle were both like, "Oh, I do like one layout too, or like, or maybe none sometimes." And it's like, I am very far the other direction, where like if I have like I'm always sort of working within a grid. And I feel people when I say grid, people think like Watchmen, but I'm not really working in it in that sense because Watchmen, I feel like every page, if you blacked out the art, every page looks exactly the same. It's just nine panels, nine panels, nine panels, nine panels.
Mhm.
Well, my page is like they're way it's a much denser grid. It's like 35 panels, five
Yes.
by seven. But then if you black them out, it would I don't think any page would repeat. Like you would never see the same page again because it's and I think part of my brain is like I'll be like, okay, I have this grid that is 7 tiers of 5 panels in a row. If I were to do a 6 panel page, how many iterations of that are there within that grid? And I will like just draw that out in my sketchbook, and sort of just have like, it's a lot of iterations, of how many possible ways could this page be organized. And then
Mhm.
sort of how how do those different ways of organizing a page affect the narrative for affect how it feels, affects the tone, all those sorts of aspects. So I feel like I think I think so much design and visual first that it ends up sort of guiding the story, structuring the story, um, and I think that sort of gives it this sort of like I don't know, gives me the confidence just to be like I don't think I need any words here, and I think it's not like I'm like, oh, I'll never do a comic with a ton of words. It might change, but for this project, it's was like sort of one of the things where it's like I don't want this to have a lot of words. I sort of want it to flow on a visual level.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it sounds like a creative kind of math process almost in a way.
It,
Um,
it yeah, there's been times where it's like, oh, I wish I paid attention in math more, like in high school, where it's like, I think you're doing this like, because when I say I go through every iteration, I don't do the math of like, what are the iterations? I'm like, okay, here's one, here's two, here's three, here's four, here's five. And there's definitely been times where I've been like, I think there's a mathematical explanation for this, but I don't know what it is. Um,
yeah, the so much gets conveyed as far as like action and time in
mhm.
the way you break down those pages too, and that's part of what makes every page kind of new and every
Mhm.
chapter new in a way is getting to see that as well as your use of color. You do a lot of
Yeah.
interesting work with color.
Yeah. Yeah. Color is like I feel like my last most recently developed skill, um where when I did Hydra, I self-published Hydra in like 2016, and that was sort of the first color work I'd done ever.
Mhm.
And so, I'd been drawing comics for a long time before then, but that's when I really started doing color and sort of like one just building the skill of like knowing how to work with Photoshop, but then also trying to use color in a way where it's part of the story, like there's a story for the color, um, throughout the book, which is sort of something I think like Pixar does. I think like, or at least they used to do, where they would draw like do these sort of long, really wide drawings that are just sort of the color story of the thing, and it's like it goes from blue to pink to red to gray or whatever, and sort of using the color as a way of sort of guiding the story. Um, and so like there would be times where I'd really look for a very desaturated color where it's like almost everything's, approaching gray. And then, at some point super saturated where it's like very bright and colorful. And then sometimes where it's like almost all red, sometimes it's almost all blue, just sort of trying to use color as an element. And I think also like with Drome or with anything, I sort of feel like there's, especially with mainstream comics, I feel like they don't necessarily, because it's the work's all divided up, I sometimes feel like they don't leave room for the other steps. So like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the writer has written too much, and then the penciler has penciled too much, and the inker has inked too much, and the colorist has come in at the very end, and it's like this comic is done. This comic has been finished like 5 times, and then the colorist does as much as they can as well. And this is not every comic. I'm just saying this. I see this sometimes where it feels like everything is at 100, and one of the things with Drome was really trying to like back off and be like, okay, color. I'm not, and there's actually a character in Drome that I don't really draw. Like they are kind of just exist in the color. Like their definition and their shape is really defined in the coloring, not in my drawing. And sort of like leaving that space for color to sort of come in and finish the story, finish the rendering, was one of the things I was trying to do. And it was also like when we talk about a challenge of like basically like drawing like a semi-blank panel and being like, okay, I'll put this in color,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of yeah, leaving room for color to do something, um, which I think you see it more in indie comics where it feels like color is either kept very minimal or just sort of adding a little bit. But a lot of times I feel there's some things, I don't know, Brian Boland might be an example to me where it's like I do not need any color on top of a Brian Boland drawing. Like the black and white Brian Boland stuff, it's so beautiful in black and white. And anything that can I don't know, a really good colorist could add to it, but a bad colorist could really take away from it. So like I feel like I'm no Brian Boland, but like, like leaving that room for the color to complete the comic was sort of important to me with Drone.
Yeah. That way it becomes more of a collaboration of the elements than kind of a competition or a covering up too.
Yeah. And I think it's easier for me at least, and maybe for everybody I imagine, to sort of do it as one person because like I work with I've worked with colorists, I've worked with writers, and there's sort of I feel sometimes like this feeling on my part that I need to hold up my end, like
Right.
that like I need to like, oh, the writer has done this, I need to lift, I can't just like back off, like, which I think sometimes is a counterproductive way of thinking because it's not like you're carrying a couch.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
the writer is in the lead right now, and so it's like you just play bass. Like you don't need to be like there. So, and I think within myself, I don't. The colorist within me doesn't feel that the inker is lazy. Like like the because it's just me, and I'm like, oh, I'm not. I don't have that carrying a couch attitude towards a creative product, but which I feel is sort of like a reasonable one. It's like a best intention of working with other people that you want to bring your best, but that sort of awareness of each other is, I think, difficult to manage, especially like with the way I think most things work now, where the writer's in California and I'm in Pennsylvania, and we just talk by email. Like
Hmm.
it's like I feel like there's this imaginary bullpen of Marvel that never existed, where like the writers and the artists were in the same room, and if the artist had a question, they could just like turn and ask the
Right.
writer like, what do you think about this? And in doing that, there would be no rudeness or anything. But if I were to send an email every time I thought, what do you think about this? I think every writer would hate me because they'd be like, he's sending me like 17 emails a day about the script when and so I don't send those emails, this disjointed sort of process sometimes, unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, I don't know.
Yeah,
Because it
yeah,
allows us to work with people who are not in our immediate area. Um,
yeah. But speaking of, you were talking about using color to form characters. I had a question about one character in particular, this lead female character that you have, who
mhm.
is a very badass character. So I was curious about any inspirations here. I didn't know she was based on anyone in particular, or just something that you wanted to accomplish with this character.
Yeah, I think like there's sort of like the Amazons and Diana or Artemis and sort of those Greek characters, and I guess also to some extent with like characters like Perseus or Hercules or Theseus, it there's like a familiarity with that. Like I feel like
Mhm.
you see Hercules and you know what it is, and I wanted that more possibility, which I think comes from having a female character. I also feel like maybe in my life there's like the tough women in your life, and
Mhm.
they are just tough. Like they are like the scariest people. And so like wanting to do sort of that kind of character where it's I don't know. I kind of feel like there's like women who are like I am the law, and it's like yeah, they really are. So I think that was sort of one of the couple of the driving things, and like um, one element, I did sort of like tap into sort of a lot of myths, and so like Diana bathing and being seen by Actaeon, that was like one of the parts I wanted to get in as well. So yeah, just sort of tapping into those various things.
Very cool, very cool. And the character works well. There are a variety of emotions, a variety of influences
Mhm.
there that I can see. Anything that you'd like to mention about the book creatively or in general before we get to the final question?
Um, see, yeah, people should check it out. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's like I think I get like I make it sound serious and mathematical, but I also think it's a lot of fun. Like it is like when I think of Greek myths, I think maybe we all have the disadvantage of being introduced to them in school when it's boring. But it's like there is in this comic like all the battle and violence and sort of like action movie stuff as well as like love and the gods. So I think it's a fun book.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Well, where can we find more information about you and the book?
Um,
Anything in general that you'd like to mention there?
yeah. So Drome comes out August 19th from 23rd Street Books, which is an imprint of First Second, which is an imprint of Dick Millen. But it's available for pre-order now. So you can order it anywhere you want to order it. It's also in previews if you want to go through a comic shop. Um, you can find me at my website, jesselonergan.com, or Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/Jesse Lonergan. Also be doing some conventions for the rest of the year. I'll be at SPX in Bethesda in September. I'll be at New York Comic Con in October. And I'll be at the Massachusetts Independent Comics Expo in December. And those are the big shows. Also doing one in France, but I don't know
Nice.
that anyone's going to make the trip to St. Malo. But yeah, and so that's what's coming up. I also have a Godzilla versus Boston story coming out. Maybe when this goes out, it might have already come out. I think it's coming out sometime mid-July. Um, but yeah, that's all the stuff for me.
Cool, cool. Well, always glad to chat with you. I hope to see you again next year at Heroes Con,
Yeah,
and
yeah, man, it'd be good.
uh, yeah, always glad to check out your work.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on.